Welcome to HCS Talks. I'm your host, Superintendent of Hampton City Schools, Raymond Haynes. This is a Hampton City Schools podcast. If it is important to students, parents, teachers, the community, or anything that has to do with education, we hope to cover it on HCS Talks. The goal is to inform, educate, and even entertain you. Today's podcast will hopefully be an informative one as we discuss our students graduating the portrait of a Hampton graduate. This past fall, the Virginia Department of Education, or the VDOE, reported 96.37% of Hampton's 2023 graduates earned their diplomas in 4 years, surpassing the statewide average of 91.93%. Not only is Hampton's on-time graduation rate the highest on-time graduation rate in the region when compared to school divisions with over 1,100 students in the class of 2023, but our students have continued to exceed a 95% on-time graduation rate for 4 consecutive years. Additionally, the division's dropout rate for the class of 2023 is 0.75%, compared to the state's dropout rate of 5.38%. We are proud to share that Hampton City Schools continues to have a dropout rate of less than 1% for 3 consecutive years. So today, I am honored that I have the opportunity to speak with 2 of the school division's graduation specialists, Mr. Melvin Brown at the Hampton High School and Dr. Nicole Boston-Blanchard at Phoebus High School. Our 5 graduation specialists play an important role in supporting our young people to graduate the portrait of a Hampton graduate. So thank you both for being here. And before we dive into our discussion, please tell the listening audience a little bit about yourselves. We'll start with you, Dr. Boston.
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I have worked with Hampton City Schools for the last 15 years, actually 16. This is my 16th year here. I thoroughly enjoy it, and I appreciate being in this role. For this role for graduation specialist, I have been the graduation specialist going on. This is my 9th year.
It's been
wonderful.
Prior to that, Dr. Boston, what roles were you in Hampton?
All right. So I actually started at Bethel High School as a special education teacher, self-contained, and then I went to an inclusion teacher. I then ventured over to Kickton High School and ended up being a graduation facilitator over there for 2 years. Yes. So it's been a wonderful experience.
Mr. Brown, how about you?
Well, I'm into my 6th year here with Hampton City Schools. I like to think that I was highly recruited from out of the state of Maryland to come down here and work in Hampton City Schools.
Wait a minute, you were in Maryland before you came to Hampton?
I was in Maryland before I came to Hampton.
I didn't realize that. I thought you were in one of our neighboring districts.
Well, I used to work at IC Norcom High School prior to relocating to Maryland. You know, I was there in Maryland at my dining room table and received the phone call, and that's where it all started. Came back down here and had an opportunity to interview and for this position, and I enjoyed every minute of it since I've been here. It's been a pleasure, and I'm really thankful for the opportunity to work with the students in our Hampton City Schools.
Well, we're thankful that you chose Hampton City Schools. So, Maryland, are you from Maryland?
No, I'm actually from Chesapeake. I'm a graduate of Deep Creek High School.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Boston, where are you from?
Richmond, Virginia.
Richmond.
Yes.
So we're all Virginians.
Yeah, we are.
Yes.
That's right.
Well, we thank you both for choosing Hampton City Schools, and thank you for choosing to stay, and the impact you're making on our young people and ensuring that they're graduating the portrait of a Hampton graduate is simply phenomenal.
Thank you.
So as a graduation specialist, or as graduation specialists, what does a typical day look like for you? Even though we know there's really no typical day. Every day of the year is probably different for you, but typically what do you all start off doing first thing in the morning?
Well, I like to answer that question, take a look at what does my week look like, because I have scheduled out a week. Mondays, I use that day for alternative locations where students may be located in the Adult Learning Center. Go over there and collaborate with the graduation specialists over there. Tuesdays are set aside for meetings with the various academies at Hampton High School. That gives me an opportunity to give the academies, our Tier 3 students that we identified throughout the school year over the summer. Then on Wednesdays, that day is used for my OGR meetings, on-time graduation meetings, where I meet with the counselor. A team is put together with the academy principal, the school counselor, myself, and the graduation facilitator, and we go through all of our Tier 3 students on Wednesdays. Thursdays are set aside for home visits. Home visits can range from students from the 9th to 12th grade, and then sometimes if we do have middle school students that we're asked to track and find, they are included in the on Thursdays too as well. And then Fridays are set aside for our admin meetings, where we all come together, and I'm responsible providing information and data on our Tier 3 students and what I've been doing throughout the week.
So you said Thursdays, home visits.
Home
you
visits.
mentioned something about middle school students.
Well, sometimes we're asked to as well to track middle school students and elementary school students. And so they're included, and sometimes they are siblings, which makes it easier for us to find them too as well.
It just speaks to that one community, one transformation mantra. It's not just about young people that are in your high school, but you're looking at on the front end of that, ensuring that young people come to school on time and daily,
Correct.
Even at the middle and probably some instances elementary. Dr. Boston, how about you? What does your typical day look like?
I would concur exactly with Mr. Brown that we do have set schedules. However, as he knows as well, is those schedules can be deviated. So I can get a phone call at 7 or 7:30 in the morning from a student saying they either missed the bus or from a parent saying they need some help. A crisis might have occurred the night before or the right then and there. And so thankfully we're able to adhere and help them get to the building, as well as supply any services they can or need to. And that's just on a regular day, even on the weekends and things like that. I do have set schedules, just like Mr. Brown said, as well as certain days going versus the Alternative Learning Center. Definitely academy choices every week. Every day we do meet with academies to make sure that we are invested to get them caught up. And we don't only look at our seniors, we look at the whole building. So we're meeting with freshmen as well to make sure that they're where they're supposed to be.
A great point. It speaks to my next question, but before I get into that, I know, Mr. Brown, you mentioned that whole collaborative approach when you're meeting, and you mentioned Dr. Boston meeting with the academy teams, the counselors, the academy principals. So we look at this as more holistically. It's not just the graduation specialists ensuring that young people are on track for graduation, but you all work together as a team. So
Correct.
Talk a little bit about processes and structures around that.
Okay, well, I definitely can speak from processes. We start this basically before kids might have even entered our building, where as a team, we look at all the data that's given from the district and see where they're on track or off track, and come together with the school counselors, the academy principals, everybody, special education department, everybody sits. It is a whole team approach to help each child specifically cater to what they need to make sure they get what they need to be successful. And that starts really early.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that it's a great time to implement interventions and to talk about interventions that can happen on multiple different levels so we don't duplicate services. So I always ask the question at the academy meetings, what does it look like for interventions for the graduation specialist, the school counselor, the administration that's there too as well. And then, of course, we all know the teachers have interventions that they must implement. So it gives us an opportunity to hold everyone accountable for ensuring that the student graduate on time. And then this year, what I also included was security too as well, because we do have some students that may roam the hallways or may try to leave the building. Things like that do happen. So if there's our particular students that's on my radar, I give those names to the security guards and we communicate on the radios, and if they see them in the hallway before I get to them, to hold them there until I get there. So we try to involve everyone on different levels to help us out.
But it also helps in terms of that check and connect. The security the security officers get a chance to know the young people and establish rapport with them, and looking at the whole school, wrapping their arms around them, saying, hey, we want to make certain that you come in and get what you need in order to graduate and actually be that portrait of a Hampton graduate. We're talking about being college, career, and life ready. It's an all hands on deck thing, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention, and you all mentioned as well, the importance of the teachers and them being involved in the entire process, because they're the ones who are ultimately saying, I believe the young person has mastered the skills and concepts. We provided some additional interventions, and we want to make certain that, maybe you didn't make some good choices on the front end, but we want to give you opportunities and instill that sense of hope that you do, or you should be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel and walk across that stage when your graduation date comes.
Correct. And honestly, Dr. Haynes, I really do believe it's the building relationships across the board. And that's been really excellent.
So I know you all mentioned what you're doing in terms of that collaborative approach, but I also know you all look at things, what we call risk lists, in terms of getting in on the front end and identifying or intervening in situations before matters get sort of kind of out of hand. So you want to talk a little bit about what that looks like for you?
I really appreciate the risk list. It gives us an opportunity to take a look at, especially those ninth graders. Sometimes we may not have access to information from the middle school as soon as we would like to have it, especially over the summer. So we're usually targeting those 10th, 11th, and rising 12th graders, mainly over the summer, to get them into the school to make sure that they have enough credits to meet the requirements for promotion. The risk list is definitely a piece of gold for us because it gives us an outlook on what ninth graders we should be targeting. I mean, it has so much information up there. But one thing that is key on that document is their attendance, because that's definitely an indicator that that student will probably had some issues, not probably, but had some issues in middle school that can carry over to high school if we don't get in and help that family at that point in time.
So you mentioned, we know the risk list sort of points out young people who have had some challenges with attendance. What other things does it look at?
Everything, their grades, SOLs, if they're struggled in certain subjects they didn't do so well in. So we need to figure out what we can do to help before they get to our building, and making sure that they are given every opportunity, especially if we get it and then we're like, oh, maybe I can get them to come in during the summertime and get some one-on-one assistance.
I know it looks at discipline too in terms of some of the choices they may have made, but it's not necessarily a target, so to speak, versus an opportunity for you all to get on the front end and provide them with the support that's needed to ensure they're going to be successful. It's the last thing we want to do, and we know historically trying to look at them once they become a senior, then you're constantly playing catch up. But if you catch them on the front end as ninth graders and 10th graders, then I think you're better preparing them for the expectations and them knowing that there's someone out there that cares about the overall well-being and the outcomes for them. So I know you mentioned that, Mr. Brown, but I can't say enough about those risk lists as well, and you all jumping in on the front end of that and working to provide a system of support for young people as a whole. So how often are you reviewing student performance?
Oh, that's daily. Daily, maybe hourly. It's every, be honest with you, it doesn't stop. We just, and I have it on, the phone. So even I'm looking up stuff that comes up every day, every minute. So that's that never, because it's a continuous change, especially with the performance levels.
And then probably having some conversations with the counselors and teachers about, hey, he didn't do so well in this particular area. This is what he or she may have going on the outside, the external factors. Can we look at providing them with more opportunities to be successful? So I know a lot of that dialogue goes on with you all as well.
Yeah, it's proof. Mm-hmm. It's proof. It's undeniable proof. It's a great tool to have to put in front of the parent when you have in that conversation with that parent that this is a starting point. Let's not look at it as a data of error, but let's look at it as a starting point to try to make things different, try to make a change. You just can't deny it that it's there. You can't ignore it. And if you do ignore it, it's not going to get any better.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So what types of things do you all do or put in place to support students and families? It's a plethora of things, but just talk about some of the unique things you doing?
Well, I guess I can speak for myself. Is basically, I'm always available. I'm available for you at any hour, any time. Also, gain resources in the community to see if they do need help, because sometimes it's not in the school setting that is causing this. So we try to give a list of either, any counseling services, any food providers, anything of that sort, and just being there and open to listen as well. Because sometimes parents just need us to listen to find out what's going on, and feeling like this is a family here at Hampton City Schools. We're not individual. We're here together to help each other out.
And then also we have McKinney-Vento. We have a high number of families that may be displaced. So we make sure that they have access and have a thorough knowledge and understanding on how to go through that process. Some of them don't like to have the conversations about that, but they do understand, and we make them understand that your children needs to be in school.
So McKinney-Vento, we're talking about homeless families,
Correct.
homeless students as well.
Correct.
And we know in our subgroup performance, we have done exceptionally well in making certain these young people graduate on time as well. So I know that you all go above and beyond in working with them, whether it's taking resources and support to them or finding a way for them to get to school. So we'll talk a little bit more about some of the creative things you all have had to do to make certain that young people are walking across that stage, the portrait of a Hampton graduate.
Well, definitely. One of the main things is just being available as far as picking up and transporting, and telling them if you do happen to have another location, keep the open communication so that way we can supply any services they need to make sure they get to school, and just being, a support system for them, as well as after school programs to help them out, helping the family as a whole, even with Thanksgiving, things of that sort, for them.
And we also work together too as well. So if a student that's in Hampton school zone but attends Phoebus or attends another school zone, we help with transporting students too as well. If there's Saturday school, students need a ride for Saturday school, we'll team up sometime and do home visits, anything that we need to do to help each other to get those students across the stage.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Mr. Brown. One of the most impressive things I have seen, and just in my various roles in serving as a high school principal and then as the chief of secondary schools, is the camaraderie and collegiality that you all have amongst each other. And it truly is symbolic of us being a school division and not a division of school, and you all are working together to ensure, regardless of whether or not it's a student at Phoebus, Hampton, Bethel, or Kickingham, we're going to make certain these are our young people, and we're going to make certain they get across the stage. One of the points I wanted to mention is making certain the listening audience realizes this is earned diplomas. We're not giving
Correct.
anything. We're just making certain that we work towards providing them an equal opportunity to get the resources that are needed to get across the playing field, so to speak. So we can't say enough about young people and the work that you all are doing with them and ensuring that it's a more collective approach. I mentioned earlier, we know that you all don't work in isolation, so it's more of a collaborative approach. And we mentioned the fact that you all are working with the teachers and the counselors and as well as with one another. So talk a little bit more about the team approach that you all have incorporated.
Well, definitely, we must include the parents on the team. I do not believe in letting them off the hook. Most of the time, we can find ourselves as being the parent, playing a parent role, especially for students that once they turn 18, they feel as though, I'm in charge of this. And so the parents back off. So we have to include the parent in the team approach too as well. And again, like I mentioned with our OGR meetings, we had the counselors in there too as well, going over and beyond, helping our students, making sure they take suggestions from us when it comes down to credit recovery, revising schedules, to make sure we put our students in the best positions to graduate on time, and especially those students that transfer from out of state.
Good point.
Yeah, I believe, honestly, you walk in that building and say, this is us together. We are going to do this all together, and open communication across the board with everybody that, as Mr. Brown said, as far as security, even the bus drivers. I mean, when the kids walk on that morning, they have to be in a good mindset as well. Cafeteria, that food, everybody, is let's do this together as a unit.
And I know the work that you do is pretty much 24/7, 365. But when there's that small window of opportunity, when you get a break, when do you get a break or time to recharge? And when you get it, what is it that you like to do or enjoy doing?
I mean, to be honest, I break when I sleep. I'm so data driven, and I enjoy witnessing and being a part of students moving throughout their lives, throughout high school and life after high school. I can't take a break. Even when we afforded vacation time, we find ourselves still working. People will call us.
Right. Yes.
They will call us, and then some students have our cell phone numbers, and they reach out to us, and we're always available. I honestly, when I sleep is when I break.
I understand.
Yeah, I can say the same thing. My kids come first. They're going to call regardless whether I'm off or I'm like, okay, I'm off. However, what do you need? What's going on?
Yes.
The same thing with just as a whole, because I just don't know when to turn off because I'm here for the children, for them and the parents as well.
So even in that millisecond that you might, if you're not sleeping, Mr. Brown or Dr. Boston, aside from this world, what is it that you like to do?
Personally?
Yes.
Well, I'm into AFX, racing cars, toys.
You actually race cars?
Well, handheld devices,
Dr. Haynes like,
It's an old school hobby from back in the 70s, 80s.
But so it's remote control.
Remote control. Those who are in the field, that's the terminology we use. But I'm into, hobbies. I'm really into my hobbies, and I just like some quiet downtime. I may read every now and then or spend time with my grandchildren, twins, so. But, if that phone ring and I get a text message, I just can't.
In the middle of the race, you just stop.
In the middle of the race, I'm even when I'm out with my friends, I get a text message, and I just find a need to help the student. I just can't turn it off. But in my downtime, I do spend time enjoying my hobbies and spending time with my grandkids.
Yes, sir. How old are your twin grandkids?
7. They'll be 8. December 7th.
And they live in this area?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
They live in this area. They attend school out in Virginia Beach.
Okay. Dr. Boston, how about you?
I enjoy reading. I enjoy reading and what I consider watching meaningless TV, where you don't really have to think that much because my brain is constantly going. Another thing,
you have to try to figure out what's going on.
Right. Also enjoy spending time with my son. He does go to Hampton City Schools as well. So, he'll be leaving me next year. He'll be a senior. So, spending time with him. He knows mommy when that phone rings is another student. I'm sorry, but he knows he's fine. So, but yeah, that's
But you do
pretty
get
much.
that time in.
I
with
do.
him
I
and
make
family
sure
and,
I get that time in.
And having some self-care as well, we know is important because you have to take care of yourself in order to go out and hopefully take care of others as well.
Definitely.
So what keeps the both of you motivated? What's sort of your why for the work?
I was thinking about this. Why do I do it every year after every year? It's the students, the children. I truly love kids. And no matter, even we might bump heads the very next second. Okay, they were like, you're not upset? No. Why should I be? Let's figure out the ultimate goal is to get you graduated and then move on. And having one kid, I have one kid that comes back every year for the last 3 years, brings me one rose, when he comes to see me. It's just that one, and that's multiple that over the years. But just to think that you just need one. He was a first generation high school for his family. Nobody graduated from high school at all. So I think that's just wonderful. That keeps you motivated to help all of them to figure out what we need to do.
Very good.
Yeah, if I can put a small dent in the cycle of breaking poverty, just a small dent, that's my why. When I came out of high school in 1987, back then you can drop out of high school without getting a high school diploma, and you can still make a good living. You can go into the military, you can still find factory jobs, and things have changed. With the way the economy is going, and these kids just do not have a chance. They do not have a chance if they do not have that high school diploma. And so that's my why. Every morning I get up, I have theme music that I listen to charge me up, to amp me up. Always find words of affirmation to keep me going, because this job is stressful. It can be stressful. It can be it can have an element of disappointment, when students don't make it, but we have to keep going and keep trying. So, that's my why, to try to put a little small dent in the cycle of poverty to help these students.
Very powerful statement. That self-care piece for yourself, like you mentioned, whether it's theme music in the morning, words of affirmation, and hopefully those words of affirmation you could use to hopefully impact young people too. So we know that's all critically important to the work that you all do on a regular basis. So are there any success stories or students that you won't forget?
I have too many, to be honest. It's too many kids. Like I just mentioned earlier, one that just graduated and nobody in the family had, his high school diploma. That was one. We've got moms, what we call that finished up and was excellent, that they come back around and now they're siblings. And so they were like, Dr. Boston, how long are you staying? I was like, well, how? I was like, well, what grade? They were like, second grade. I was like, I don't know about that. But, each year is a success story, and I've been doing this for some time now, and it's too many to count.
Well, with me, like Dr. Boston mentioned, it's just too many to count. I get my enjoyment out of seeing the family unit at graduation, right. The happiness, the joy, the relief that they, feel that, hey, my baby made it. Right. And then when grandma come on the scene, and that just gets me, I'm okay until I see grandma. Right. So, so they always come up and thank you for helping their baby out and getting them to graduate. So that's the success that I like to see, the family unit enjoying the fact that their child or their children, finally made it across that stage.
And then for me, and I'm sure for you all as well, it's not just making certain that they walk across that stage, being the portrait of a Hampton graduate. It's like, how are we tracking to determine, we made certain they graduated, but what connections do you have to see what they're doing after high school? If we're going to talk about showing young people a college career and life ready, what does that look like? So what types of stories do you have, or do you know about young people after they leave the doors of the Hampton High School or Phoebus High School? What are you all seeing?
Well, I told them, you need, I've been checking on you all these years. You need to come back and check on me. Right. So hence, when they do come check on me, right. Ultimately I'm getting, where are they at? What are they doing? Of course, our college babies come back during break. I've gotten some military that came back as far as, and then they're actually in the community also working. We got the shipyard and things of that sort. So I always say, before they leave and cross the stage, make sure you come check on me, so that way I know what they're doing. And they're doing things in the community, which is excellent.
You want to stay connected to them.
Yes.
We weren't just working towards your getting
Correct.
a high school diploma and we're done with you. We want to know what you're doing to further prepare yourself for life in general. How about you, Mr. Brown?
Well, one impressive thing that I witnessed this school year is that we actually had some substitutes come back that were Hampton, nice. Not only the Hampton High School graduates, but Hampton City School graduates. And I recognized them and standing there having that conversation. Oh, Mr. Brown, I remember when you helped me graduate and used to come to my job and right. make sure that I took time off my job to graduate. That was real fulfilling to see those students come back. And then the students that's still there in the building had an opportunity to hear those conversations. And I'm pretty sure they had those conversations while they was in the classroom. So it was just a 360-degree opportunity for me to see students come back to Hampton City Schools and to substitute teach.
And one of the million things that you all do, you mentioned going to the place of employment for young people, having conversations with them during their breaks, or even talking with their supervisors yes. about the importance of giving them some time off to ensure they get what they need or do what they need to graduate, and going to places that folks wouldn't imagine you're having to go to during these so-called home visits. It's not necessarily a home, but going above and beyond the call of duty to make certain that we keep young people on track for graduation, and instilling that sense of hope that I think is critically important in the work. As we wrap up, is there anything else you would like to share with the listening audience?
Well, there's one thing that I always like to mention. What was, I think, was very important. What Hampton City Schools did over the last few years is when, this division shares the data with the community. Those signs that were posted around the city, 100% accreditation, gave me, and I'm pretty sure it gave the other graduation specialists, an adjusted bit of influence when we walk into these establishments, place of employment, and speak to managers to let them know, hey, we got a student that's not doing well in school. Would you be willing to adjust their schedule? Even sometimes the students ask us to go in and speak for them. And not one time have we had anyone deny us the right to speak to them or to change their schedule or to redirect us back to the parent. They all knew exactly who we are, what we stood for. I think those signs did a great bit of justice to let the community know how well the schools are doing in Hampton City Schools.
I couldn't have asked for a better response. It speaks to our mantra of one community, one transformation.
Yes, excellent.
And being excellent with intentionality. How about you, Dr. Boston?
I just think that Hampton City Schools is where it's supposed to be. I think it's an excellent school system, and everybody needs to be here because we are all family oriented within just Hampton in general. I can't speak any more than that.
And we want to make certain that folks come into this area and
Yes.
choose Hampton. Make Hampton the first choice.
Definitely.
Working with dynamic folks like yourselves and the impact that you're making on young people on a daily basis. Can't say enough about it. We continue to hold folks to the highest standard in terms of ensuring on-time graduation rate is above 95%, and that dropout rate remains below 1%. And we want to continue to increase the percentages of our young people graduating on time and totally decrease the dropout rate altogether. The city itself is working hand in hand with us, and it speaks volumes to us looking at folks wanting to move here and be a part of Hampton City Schools to work, live, eat, and play. And it goes without saying that you all are part of that tremendous and positive impact that you're making with the city as a whole. So thank you, Mr. Brown and Dr. Boston, for joining me today. I'm sure our listening audience, especially our high school parents, even our middle school parents, or rising high school parents in general, have learned some important information from you. And to our listeners, remember, education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. As one community, one transformation, we will ensure academic excellence for every child, every day, whatever it takes. We will catch you next week.
Listen to learn more about Hampton City Schools. New episodes of HCS Talks drop on Thursdays. Subscribe and listen to HCS Talks. HCS Talks is a Hampton City Schools production.